Let's go. The full pads are on, baby. Come
Heck
on.
yeah.
Come on. We're back. Kevin's Corner. Kevin Bowen. Chris Presley. Just told me the great nephew of Elvis Presley. How about that?
I didn't get any money. It's all good.
Was that right? Great nephew? I don't know. Sounded right.
So my grandfather was Elvis's uncle. So what is that? First or second cousins?
Boom.
Something like that?
Sounds like a brother to me. In some cities in Indiana, that you could just be his brother. So.
Well, when you grow up in Memphis, Tennessee, the question is always like, so are you related to
I can
Elvis?
imagine. Yeah, sorry that never hit me. Ben Polizzi was in studio before us, and he just threw that out there. So, boom, here we are.
Yep.
3 days of full padded practices complete for the Colts. An off day on Thursday. We're coming at you late afternoon on a Wednesday. We'll try to stick to this routine, kind of an off day every 4 days here for the Colts. So we'll try to do a pod whenever there's a little bit of break in action, and I can't encourage people enough. 1075thefan.com. I've got daily notebooks up there, our YouTube page as well, daily video recaps, and then the pod once every 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we've had some great numbers so far, but if for some reason you guys are missing that or need to scratch the itch a little bit more, we've got you covered on all platforms.
Kevin, I can't tell you how excited I was driving in today. We like everyone else, we get so tired of these buzzwords like normalcy.
Mm-hmm.
But when the NBA playoffs are on, the NHL playoffs are on, you got good golf going on.
Indy 500.
Indy 500 this weekend. Baseball figured it out when I didn't think they were going to, and now we got training camp.
Yeah, it's I was kind of a kid on Christmas morning on Monday. Like I told my wife, I'm like really excited today, and she's like, why? Or I don't think it hit her yet that I was going over to the Colts complex to watch my first practice since late December. Usually we watch them in OTAs and rookie mini camp, so that's at least probably a dozen times that I would have already seen them in 2020, and I guess I definitely want to let our listeners know I feel more of a responsibility this year without fans in the building.
Absolutely.
Like, I've always, and I think our listeners know this, I'm beyond passionate about my job, and I love camp. I love watching it. And this year, I know full well that I'm the eyes and ears for a lot more than just what our normal audience is.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to pay attention as much as I can when I'm out there. I do feel like before we get into the podcast, and we'll go through kind of my takeaways so far of camp and then, tons of Twitter questions, we always have to throw in the caveat, Chris, of we are 3 days into training camp. So, instead of me saying that 67 times the rest of this podcast, just note, we are 3 days into training camp.
Yep.
What I am telling you is what my eyes and ears have seen, observed, been told, those sorts of things. And take that with it what you will. I'll try to interject if I think these are, long-term signs, short-term signs, all of that. But, I just feel like I just want to make sure that we all set the expectations of I have watched camp for 3 days, and what I'm about to tell you is what I've seen for 3 days. And that can change in a hurry, for the good, for the bad, whatnot. And I'll continue to update things, but this is it's a fluid, another word that we use a lot here in 2020, a fluid situation. But, man, the fact that I have actually watched 3 straight days of NFL practice, like I said, man, continue to be optimistic. Continue to be optimistic. This is, I am, boy, I'm Tiger Woods walking into a Perkins restaurant. I am a happy individual right now.
Was it like the first day of school, seeing all the media compadres that you're used to seeing on more of a regular basis,
Sure.
and catching up with them and finding out, what they've been up to? I know you stay in contact with a lot of them anyway, but
Yeah, it took about 5 minutes before I was annoyed at Mike Wells asking me golf questions. But no, obviously, in all seriousness, just to see all of them. And, I think also, and not to get on a soapbox because we all have been hit by this in different ways, our jobs have been impacted. Some of our jobs have been greatly impacted by this. So we know full well that we are very happy to be out there and glad to be producing content for you guys.
So while you're out there, if we want to jump right into the recapping of your first 3 days, seeing some of the takeaways, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Everyone's excited about Phillip Rivers. You and I were talking before the podcast just a little bit about how different it is to see him under center in his style of throwing, but is there a buzz out there with him?
Well, I would say let's start with that motion. I mean, it's spastic in a way. Like it's Charles Barkley swinging a golf club at times, because you have the two guys that throw after him and really Chad Kelly deserves to be in this group as well. I mean, Jacoby Brissett has a nice motion, big arm. Jacob Eason, like literally a Greek god-looking figure throwing the football. I mean, it is gorgeous watching him throw. Rivers throws an interesting, you're like, what just happened, And so obviously watching it in person and, several feet away from him is totally different than even seeing it on TV. But I would say after 3 days, Chris, so far what I expected. The ball comes out quick. He is in extreme command of this offense. I think at times we think Rivers is in panic mode more often because the release is so weird. And I don't think he's really in that often of panic mode. I think it's just he's made his progressions, he's made his reads, and sure, he's sliding in the pocket, and the ball's going to come out at a whatever degree angle that looks different than 98% of NFL quarterbacks in the history of the game. So the reasons the Colts wanted to get him, I've seen. Again, quick rhythm and command, decisiveness, those things I have seen. I've also seen a couple hero ball throws where it's just like you thought Jack Doyle's going to run underneath that. I mean, you can't lob a ball up over the middle of the field. And today he throws a deep ball that Campbell has no separation with George Odom. And it's just kind of like, all right, that's 5'11" Paris Campbell against 6' George Odom. I mean, that's not a great jump ball situation, but it's certainly a throw that Jacoby wouldn't have made last year. So I have seen pretty much what I thought I would see from him. A heavy amount of the running backs and tight ends for sure. Him and T.Y., look to be on the same page, even though Hilton had one of the rest days. So, so far I don't think my expectations have changed too much with him. Campbell had I guess I'm just thinking about some of the other guys that pop into my head, and feel free to interject if you have anybody that that's on your mind. Campbell had an outstanding day 2, really good. Really, I think a really good first 2 days. Today was terrible, to be honest. Muffed 2 punts, had a drop on just a beautiful in-stride crosser that Rivers put right in the, you don't need to slow down one bit. It's 20 yards for 90% of receivers. It's probably going to the house for you, and he dropped it.
My question goes back to the word you used with jump ball. What have we seen out of Pittman and some of the other rookies that I know a lot of our listeners are going to be intrigued with paying attention to?
Let me finish one thought on Campbell. We really didn't see him practice much last camp. He got hurt on the 4th day. It ended up being Andrew Luck's final day of training camp or ever of practice. But once you get in the regular season, you only watch 20 minutes of practice. So this has kind of been Paris Campbell's practiced for 3 straight days in full pads. He never did that last training camp. So when you watch him, it's just like that dude has a different gear than anyone else on the field. And his ability to separate in the short areas of the field, that is rare. So I think, again, stay healthy for sure. Obviously, a couple drop muffs today that weren't great, but that's what I've noticed with Campbell. As far as Pittman, Frank Reich admitted there's been some mental issues with him, and I think Frank has almost a great sort of barometer because he has this guy in Campbell who's in year 2. Was a 2nd-round pick, and he's got this guy in Pittman who was a 2nd-round pick in year 1, and he can see full well the mental capacity of each and what a year in an NFL system does for the other. So I think that's been a little bit for Pittman. We haven't seen the jump balls as much, which is something I'd like to see in 11-on-11 settings. One-on-ones, you can kind of see it. I would say the thing about Pittman that I'll always be curious about, and this was probably the biggest knock on him coming out, was can he separate enough? Naturally at 6'4", 220, you're going to create some sort of separation. And Rivers has thrown him the ball, and with his body, he doesn't need to create tons of separation. But I think that will be the question with him. Jonathan Taylor, flat out stud on Tuesday. It was just I mean, you had Tavon Wilson, another DB, just fly off him trying to tackle him, and it was like, I mean, more like trying to wrap up because you don't live tackle at this point. But he again, another gear. Just, and this is what I said all along. So many people wanted to pigeonhole him with the other Wisconsin running backs, and I'm like, guys, Monte Ball doesn't run 4.3. Melvin Gordon doesn't run 4.3. Ron Dane, dude, that dude's at Long's Donuts trying to get a rewards card. I mean, he's not running 4.3. Like, Jonathan Taylor's a different breed.
Yeah.
So when he gets to the second level, yeah, I don't know if he scoots or what just changes, but it's a burst, man. And this is nothing against Marlon Mack, because I think Marlon Mack's been very solid. Catching the ball out of the backfield a little bit more than I thought he would. But, yeah, Taylor was pretty special on Tuesday. Who else? Trey Burton's been pretty consistent. I'm disappointed not to see Mo Alley Cox yet, still on the PUP list.
Okay.
You know, we're starting to get to that point where it's like him and Kamoko Turi, like, I mean, the season is less than a month away, and you know, especially for a guy like Ture, which we can get into a little bit later, you wonder about that. I'd say lastly on the offense, Chris, no Braden Smith yet. He's doing some on-field drill work off to the side, so he looks like he's pretty close, a foot injury. And when I first saw him sitting out on Monday, my thought was this. That's one of the biggest fears for this season, losing an offensive lineman, especially a tackle. And then I also thought, well, if it's nothing serious, it's great reps for Raven Clark at right tackle right now.
Which you tweeted, you felt like he had a good day the other day.
You know, he's been okay in the one-on-ones, and I don't want okay to sound so negative. Like, okay is an upgrade from what he usually is. So let's state it what it is. I think he's been okay. I mean, it's not horrific, which oftentimes with him, it's been like that when he's gotten in games. So I don't know if right tackle's a better spot for him than left or what. But, again, it's kind of twofold there. It's great that Clark's getting reps, but it also still is just like, you know, Raven Clark blocking to Nico Autry or Al-Qadim Muhammad is different than the first third down of the season when it's Yannick Ngakoue and Josh Allen.
Right.
You know, so yeah, that's kind of what stood out to me so far on the offensive side.
Well, let's jump to the defensive side of the ball. Storylines there.
Yeah, I guess let's start with the injury to Kenny Moore. Strained his groin on Monday, I think it was. Chucked his helmet on the ground, so you knew it was something of notableness, if that's a word. Going to be out at least a week. You know, anytime you hear that, Chris, it's kind of like, boy, at least a week. Does that mean 2? You know,
right.
That's kind of one of those things with him. And I look at it very similar to the Braden Smith injury. Chris Ballard went on a little bit of a rant last year at the season-ending presser about the loss of Kenny Moore late last season and how the Colts did not have an acceptable backup nickel corner. And it was a very intricate detail in the season that our diehard listening audience probably caught, but, you know, the common fan probably overlooked. And it was a big reason why they went out and they signed TJ Carey and then drafted Isaiah Rodgers, 2 guys that are both kind of nickel guys, even though their body type's a little different. So now that Kenny Moore's out at least a week, boom, here you go, TJ Carey. What an opportunity to I mean, he's got a nice resume, but, like, show a new team where you're at the age of 30. Man, Moore was only out there for a few plays, but he's the most instinctive football player, I think, on this football team. And that's saying something because, I mean, Leonard and Hilton are crazy instinctive.
Right.
But Moore is just he's just a different breed, man. So that injury, Xavier Rhodes out on Tuesday with illness. Boy, that corner depth without Marvell Tell.
I know it, man.
It's gotten tested in a hurry. We'll get into some of those names. And, again, I encourage people to read the daily notebooks. I try to mention, like, a handful of names each day that have stood out for various reasons. And some of those corners, like Lafayette Pitts and Travis Reed, I mean, who the hell are those guys? They've been either doing well or getting meaningful reps. And so, you know, that's twofold. There's good and bad with that, of course. You know, thank the Lord for the Colts that Rocky Scene continues to be available and healthy. So,
I do have a quick defensive back question for you.
Yeah.
We talked about Rivers' throwing motion, and typically that doesn't make a difference to a receiver because once you come out of your break, the ball's supposed to be there. Has anyone asked any of the defensive backs if it's weird to read him in practice the way he throws based on how other quarterbacks do?
It's a good question. No, I don't think anybody has been asked that specifically. Yeah, I would think one thing from the DBs is just you have a good feeling it's coming out pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's more kind of the blanketing earlier and routes that is such a key and I think needs to improve for this team. But no, that is a good question that I feel like I should ask. Speaking of DBs, while we're on it, Malik Hooker I thought has probably had the best defensive play of camp so far, and it just went down as a pass breakup. And I won't get into like a ton of the detail on it, but basically I thought the Colts did a great job pre-snap looking like a disguising scheme, tons of guys at the line of scrimmage and just did a beautiful job with that. And Hooker makes a great play on the ball. And again, I thought it was a beautiful play. And this was on Tuesday when he made it. And then today, Wednesday, Frank Reich was asked about Malik's camp so far. And Frank said he went into the quarterback room after that practice, after the Tuesday practice, and they're starting to watch film, and like Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett are just in awe of the ability that Hooker had to make that pass breakup in front of Jack Doyle.
Love to hear that.
Kind of like the Hooker pick last year in week 1 in L.A. when Rivers was like, I saw him. I didn't think he could get there. Like, it's not like I didn't see him. So, so far, so good for Hooker.
Good.
So far, so good for Tyquan Lewis. Two guys that we have talked about a lot on this podcast and that need huge years. Malik, I really thought took more than the high road today. First time we've spoken to him since, contract declined and the drafting of Julian Blackmon. So it looks like since his, Instagram story after all of that happened back in the spring, someone has gotten to him. And he used the phrase a motivational call is kind of what this offseason has been for him. He's not rehabbing an injury for the first time in his NFL career. He called himself a B+ player last year is what he graded out on, in his opinion. Feels like he needs to do a couple of things this year. Find the ball more, be more consistent in general, be the quarterback of that secondary, now that there is no Clayton Geathers and there is no Pierre Desir even. And then lastly, when they use you as a box safety, do some stuff up there, which isn't his forte, I know. So, good to hear from him. Tyquan Lewis probably been one of the better players on the defensive side of the ball so far. Just quick, playing the interior. He knows he gets it. And this is not only my opinion. Frank Reich has mentioned both of these things as well. So, yeah, that's what stood out defensively. Buckner, pretty quiet. But, again, defensive linemen, it can be hard. Buckner, for some reason, is not participating in the one-on-one drills.
Okay.
I'm like, are they afraid of him? Is it like, well, if we hand the ball off to the fourth grader, that's better than everybody. We know what the result will be. Because he literally looks like he's the biggest kid on the playground when you go out there to practice. But, yeah, Buckner practiced 2 days so far. Yeah, man, that's about it.
One thing that they're probably not thrilled with, a lot of the defensive players being the higher numbers on the team. Do we want to jump into the special teams and talk about the kicking situation we have going on right now?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. So basically, we've only seen them kick Chase McLaughlin versus Rodrigo Blankenship one day in full pads. That was yesterday indoors, ironically enough, because it was raining. So what Frank Reich has basically done is he assigns 1 to 49 jersey number to one kicker and 50 to 99 to the other kicker. And I think moving forward, again, we've only been out there for 1 day, I think they will flip. Some days 50 to 99 is for Blankenship. Some days 50 to 99 is for Chase McLaughlin and whatnot. So McLaughlin made all 7 of his kicks on Tuesday, 47, 49, 52 yards in there. Blankenship made all of his but one. I think it was the 47 or 49 he missed off the right upright. And so all the big guys had to run. 50 through 99 had to run. So, again, just a little bit of like something that Frank Reich is trying to do to change it up. He alternated them kicking as well. It wasn't like, all right, we'll have 2 field goal sessions in practice and Blankenship will kick in one and McLaughlin will kick in the other. It was, one guy here, one guy next. I like how the ball comes off both their feet, legs. Yeah, I mean, there's a nice, I don't think any of them are, going to break an NFL record for distance, but, and this is going to sound harsh, but the ball just comes off their leg better than it did for the kicker last year.
Yeah.
And I just think that's the reality of it. So I think I've said in this podcast, I would lean towards Chase McLaughlin. I feel better about his NFL resume, and I just like his quiet confidence. And again, it's been one day. They went 13-14, so great work by both of them as well. And I'll be excited to watch that unfold as camp rolls along.
You think it's safe to say, regardless of who wins, the one who doesn't win that position will likely be kicking in the NFL somewhere this year?
It's a great question. Yes, but the lack of preseason games, it kind of throws it out the window. We had that question a few weeks ago, like, oh, the Vikings traded that kicker one year for a 5th-round pick, or maybe the Vikings gave up a 5th-round pick. I forget what it was. Well, that dude made all his kicks in the first preseason game and hit one from like 55. And like Blankenship has a gorgeous college resume, but still, like, it's different in the NFL. So unless they're like literally reading our notes and saying, according to the scribes in Indy, Blankenship's 98% this year. Like, now kickers are, about as reliable as, iPhone chargers. So I think it's something to where, I would expect both of them to be kicking the NFL at some point this season.
Awesome. All right, well, we have a ton of Twitter questions. Want to jump into those?
Yes, sir. And again, I feel like it's a weekly caveat. We know we'll not get to all of them, so I've already kind of put probably a dozen, honestly, into next week's column. So let's get after it.
Let's kick it off with Nathaniel on PFT with Mike Florio. Chris Sims made the comment that the Colts defense had no game-changing players until we added DeForest Buckner. Do you agree?
No, not at all. I don't. Darius Leonard. I mean, hello. Like, come on. No, boy.
I love it. Every time someone slights Leonard, though, I'm like, good.
Yeah, I guess.
Keep going.
Certainly.
Keep going.
It's weird. Like, and the Pacers get this a lot. Fans get so mad about the lack of national attention with the Pacers. But then I'm always like, don't the Pacers play better as underdog? Like, it's weird. I'm like, every time I feel like the Pacers have a hyped up game, it like doesn't really go according to plan. But yet when no one's watching them on a Tuesday night against the Bucks,
right
here you go. So, I mean, Leonard for sure would fall into that category. It's incredible the numbers he's put up. Healthy Hilton, I'd put in that category as well.
Matt wants to know, what would you say as of right now are the Colts' top 3 needs for next year's draft / offseason to keep this team moving in the right direction?
Quarterback, without a doubt. Probably offensive tackle or corner. I don't know what I would have 2, what I would have 3 on there. They'd be very close. But, yeah, if you're going to go top 3 needs, that's where I would go. And, some of that's long-term. Some people might be like, well, we still got Rivers, Costanzo. Yeah. I'm like, well, yeah, but, I mean, moving in the right direction. I mean, this is a long-term question here.
Speaking of Rivers, Tall says it seems like the whole team feels more comfortable and confident with him under center. Do you feel that in practice and in the interviews?
I do. I know Jacoby Brissett is still beloved in that locker room, especially by the defensive guys. Anthony Walker, I think, actually – Brissett lives with Anthony Walker. But, Chris, I think it comes down to this. Like, I mean, do you want to win or not?
Yep.
It's like, you're in 5th grade and you're in the backyard picking teams for whatever. And, yeah, you want to pick your best friend, but you also want to freaking win.
Yeah.
It's the NFL, folks. And so I think Rivers, what he brings is just a whole lot of respect of like, damn, I respect his passion. I respect his work ethic. I respect how he goes about his business and just him as a teammate. Like, again, we can get into the Rivers debate about him as a player at the age of 38, 39, but him checking those boxes, yeah. I would hope that everyone in that locker room can get by that and realize that was the best move for the team.
Caleb wants to know, what expectations should we have this year for the offense? He feels like hitting 2,000 rushing yards is doable. The passing game, he's not so sure of. He feels like we've got weapons, including Reich, but can we finally take that next step and consistently flourish?
Flourish. Offensive line is key for me.
Okay.
I think they're kind of the domino, of if your line is really good, dude, it's going to be hard for Rivers to screw it up.
Right.
It really, and the run game, obviously. So, yeah, I think if the offensive line can be that dominant unit, I don't see any reason why 2,000 yards last year on the ground, so you'd expect that again. And then the passing game should improve.
He also wants to know, did he hear correctly on the last pod that we will be having bi-weekly podcasts?
Yeah, Caleb, I don't know if it'll be bi-weekly immediately. The Colts off days are kind of weird when they fall on the schedule. But once we get in season, Chris and I will have to sit down and figure it out. But, yeah, I would like to stick to kind of that Monday recap pod, if we will, and then come back. I think we did maybe Thursday mornings last year or Wednesday afternoons or something to kind of preview the upcoming games. So, yeah, we'll definitely try to stick with that.
Joseph wants to know about Banigou. He hasn't heard or seen anyone mentioning him yet. How is he doing in camp so far?
Yeah, Joseph, this will be my 3-day caveat, of, okay, this is what I've seen for 3 days. I haven't noticed Ben Banigou once. I haven't. I guess that's a lie. I think he filled out more, thicker. I don't know. Just something physically looks a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But I just continue not to see explosion, pop, burst. This is a guy that they talked about being a linebacker when he was first drafted. I'm thinking, wow, linebacker turned defensive end. That means a dominant speed trait.
Mm-hmm.
That means a twitchy athlete that can make that probably needs to put on weight, if anything, to become a full-time defensive end. And I just don't see it and haven't seen it. I didn't see it much last year. And again, 3 days in, a lot of crickets in that camp. Justin Houston was out Monday and Tuesday. I think he was back today, and Kamoko Toure is still out.
Right.
So there are some golden defensive end reps to be had, and it's been to Nico Autry, and it's been Al-Qadim Muhammad, and I don't know if I've seen Banigou with the first team for more than a couple reps. So part of this is a logjam of that position, but even in the one-on-ones, I saw one today where he beat, it was either Clark or Carter O'Donnell, the undrafted kid out of Canada.
Yep. And
this is me inferring something from the defensive line coach, Brian Baker, but it almost seemed like finally, you didn't get stoned.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's been. So, if there's one, of the higher draft picks that we always talk about and fans rightfully so are incredibly curious about, this is the one that I haven't seen much of early on.
Tony wants to know your thoughts on the cover 2 defense that the Colts play.
Tony, listeners of this pod know full well I'm not the biggest fan of it. I like to dictate more. I've always said this. Frank Reich is just a beautiful mind.
Yeah.
Man, I've used the word beautiful 3 times already. I feel like I'm talking.
It's a sunny day. Camp's back in. You're in your element.
I know.
Beautiful is on your mind. It's
talking
okay.
To Rosie. Yeah. I like chess matches. I like out scheming. I like that aspect of the game of when you plan Monday through Saturday. Why not use that on Sunday? They give you 6 days to plan and rest, so you might as well utilize it. And I just don't feel like the defense does enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, I'll go back to the Hooker pass breakup that I saw on Tuesday. There was some stuff pre-snap that I'm like, hold the phone. Whoa, that's funky. That's curious. Like to see more of that.
From Nate, it sounds like he hasn't gotten a ton of reps yet, but early thoughts on Eason, and could he be the quarterback of the future?
2 things, Nate. First, I hate no preseason games.
I know it.
There's just not much time in practice to get these guys reps. Pretty much what happens, I think on the first day, Jacob Eason and Chad Kelly each threw 2 passes in 11-on-11. 2.
Awesome.
Literally. And I'm just like when they have Eason in there, I'm like, do you really need to run the ball? I mean, come on. Like, do I need to see Darius Jackson or Bruce Anderson, whoever the running back is, carry the football? So that's been a little bit disappointing. I mean, Kelly gets a decent amount of reps, and there's been times where probably Kelly's been the more productive 11-on-11 quarterback. That in no way changes my opinion on who should be the number 3 QB on this 53-man roster. But, watching Eason in 1-on-1s and 7-on-7, Chris, he is he's an incredible thrower of the football. He is. I mean, he's just built. He's got that ideal frame for what you would have created a Madden quarterback, 15 years ago. So that's what I see. So, I mean, those 2 guys pretty much get like 2 sessions, maybe 3 a practice. So not a lot. It's just there hasn't been a lot of 11-on-11 success with Eason. Could he be the quarterback of the future, Nate? I probably not, but I'm willing to take a chance and willing to let that chance ride out past September 5th when roster cuts are.
Greg's question this week, he wants to know how comfortable you feel with the Colts secondary. It seems like depth is an issue.
Yeah, Greg, I'm not very comfortable with it. No more in Rhodes yesterday, and all of a sudden I'm looking at my roster a bunch to be like, who is that number? Who is that guy? Safety depth, I probably am a little bit more comfortable with, to be honest. Tavon Wilson had a pick the other day. He gets in. Feels like Alan Williams, the safety coach, is rotating Malik Hooker and Kari Willis out like after every 3 plays. Like when Odom made the pick, that was the whole starting defense in there. Odom and Wilson were the safeties for Hooker and Willis. I guess Hooker and Willis have been a little banged up in their career, so I don't know. Maybe that's something that you're trying to do there. But, safety depth I actually think is okay, and, we'll see when Julian Blackmon gets on the field. Corner depth to me would be, some Center Grove defensive lineman just got offered by Clemson.
Wow.
To know Clemson was recruiting Indianapolis defensive linemen.
Clemson looked for the schools that have COVID, since they do as well, and they said, hey, Center Grove, let's go.
There you go. That's smart there, I guess.
Good for him.
Yeah, so corner depth, worried.
Scott's going to throw a little bit of a curveball here before we jump back into a football question. What show are you binging right now or binged during quarantine that you would recommend?
Well, Scott, I'd recommend sports right now. Yeah, I mean, sports are on, folks.
Yep.
And I'm kind of like, wait, I need a previous channel. There's a couple things on right now. What have I watched? I'm not a big show movie person. We just watched this movie with Tom Hanks. That narrows it down. And it was Captain Sully.
Yeah.
They're landing the plane on the Hudson River.
I believe he's from Purdue, the actual captain.
Really?
Is from Purdue University.
Wow,
yes.
That would have been great insight if I could have dropped that nugget watching the movie. Yeah, not bad. I think the story's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Movie was a little bit like, I don't know. I guess,
yeah.
It seemed like more of a documentary I would have liked than a movie. We watched the Jennifer Aniston TV anchor show.
Don't know that one.
I forget what it's called. And Reese Witherspoon, I want to say, is the other one. Obviously watched Tiger King. I'm trying to think. Quarantine's so damn long. What else? My wife's watching Shameless right now. Yeah. So there you go, Scott.
So jumping into his football question, he also wants to know, did Tannenbaum have a point saying Mac was subpar last season, or is the criticism he's getting for that tweet justified?
No. I think our listeners saw it. Mike Tannenbaum, go ahead and fill him in if they haven't seen it. Did you see this?
I did not.
Okay. Pull up, or Mike Tannenbaum subpar. Pull it up. Read it to the folks. It just national guys can tend to piss me off. Do you see it?
I'm scrolling through here. Let's see. Not as of yet.
Hopefully you deleted it for his sake.
Let me do this.
Let me see if I can find it here. Mike Tannenbaum. I mean, freaking Jets and Dolphins. You can see why he didn't last long with those people.
I got a rookie running back, Jonathan Taylor, has the potential to see 40 to 45% of carries this season for the Colts. The addition of Rivers and the subpar performance from Marlon Mack during 2019, along with the best offensive line in the NFL, leaves Taylor with the recipe for success.
Subpar. I mean, what in the fuck?
I don't know how I didn't see that.
Just idiotic, you know? And I know Mike Tannenbaum's been on our airwaves, so maybe I shouldn't be saying all this, but I mean, how dumb. I mean, even if you just looked at his stats, like if you didn't watch the Colts play last year and you just looked at his stats, 1,100 yards, whatever, 4.5 per carry, like 14 games. What is subpar about that?
Right.
So I'm just like, yeah, I am. Yeah, it pisses me off because that's, a lot of people consume their media via people like that. And I get it. It's difficult to keep a pulse on 32 NFL teams, but just look up the freaking stat. If nothing else, just look up. You're sending out a tweet. You don't have to send that out. Totally idiotic. And yeah, I mean, look at the Colts record without Marlon Mack. It's like 1-8. It's something terrible. So, gosh, yeah, Scott's got me fired up.
Scott's last question was the Colts backfield is top blank in the NFL.
Oh, I mean, top 3. Yeah, I mean, Baltimore maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, very high. I mean, we're talking, Mack, Taylor, Hines, Wilkins. Yeah, I'd say top 3 running back group in the NFL.
Jorge, who's having a better season, Paris Campbell or Michael Pittman?
Campbell, if he stays healthy.
This one's from Casey. Who is the most impressive athlete on the team as of right now?
Boy, Casey, it's a good question, especially with Ballard drafting off so many of these testing.
I know.
I've always thought Zach Pascal's a really good athlete. Might not be the best tester, but just a great athlete, probably multiple sports. Honestly, the best looking guy in pads is probably EJ Speed. 6'3", 230, just rips and can run. I mean, It's just damn, that dude looks great. And take that for, I guess that probably sounds weird to some people, but Taylor obviously is a great athlete. So, I mean, those are the guys. Buckner is a tremendous athlete. I mean, they're all very unique in their own right. But, EJ Speed,
From Dr. P, what young wide receiver is going to potentially make a difference this year during the season?
Well, Dr. P, I really don't think any. I guess Campbell, if you call him a young wideout. I don't know if this question refers to more of name me a wideout that's not on Campbell or Pittman radar.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this, a guy that I mentioned in today's notebook that I haven't really thought too much of, but I probably should, is a guy by the name of Chad Williams. Some fans will know him, some fans won't. 3rd-round pick of the Cardinals out of Grambling, I believe, in 2017. Was mostly on the practice squad for the Colts last year. Had a really good day and is getting earlier reps than Patman or Doolin or maybe Fountain, but him and Fountain are probably close.
It's pretty notable.
Yeah. So I would say he might be a name that kind of Marcus Johnson hasn't practiced yet, so that's kind of opened the door for some other guys, and I would say he's in that group.
Kev, it wouldn't be a podcast without an Andrew Luck question, and this one comes from Aaron. If Luck does not retire, does Chris Ballard still trade the 1st-round pick to get DeForest Buckner?
Chris, Monday is the 1-year anniversary. I think Monday, maybe Sunday, of Andrew Luck retiring. So I will have a piece on it. And it is kind of like this. This is one of the questions I pose. What would the Colts look like now?
Yep.
And it's a really good question, Aaron. I mean, if Luck plays last year, 10-6, 11-5 at least? So that means you're drafting 20 5 overall.
Mm-hmm.
Does San Fran do the trade?
That's where my head went. I don't know if that deep of a draft pick gets to DeForest Buckner.
Now, the Colts had some ammo. You had
True.
34 and you had 46 or 44, whatever it was. Or I guess that would have been a little bit lower because you would have won 10 or 11 games. But could you have packaged something?
Mm-hmm.
But then San Francisco might say, well, Javon Kinlaw's not going to be there at 25 like he was there at 13. So it's just all these kind of dominoes that you think about. So if Andrew Luck does not retire, I would say that DeForest Buckner is probably not here. That's just the reality of business and resources and whatnot.
This question's from Corn, Washington. If the Colts were on Hard Knocks this season, who would be some unexpected great personalities and storyline? Unexpected being the key word.
Well, Corn, I haven't watched Hard Knocks in a couple years. So, do you watch it?
I usually do. This season so far, I have not watched.
Okay. I would say unexpected. I think the funniest guy on this football team is Matthew Adams.
Okay.
A linebacker that, again, probably not a lot of people know a whole lot about. So he's the one personality that clearly stands out to me. Yeah, I'm sure Blankenship would get some love. He's got a following and was kind of a cult figure at Georgia. And I don't know, man. Like, it's tough to what's unexpected? I don't know. Is there some crazy dirt somewhere on some of these guys? I was filling in, or I don't know, maybe it was the other way around. Mike Wells and I were on the radio a couple weeks ago, and this was peak Lou Williams Magic City time.
Mm-hmm.
And so Wells asked me which Colt do I think would be most likely to have gone to Magic City. And you've got people from the Colts mad that Wells and I debated that. And I'm just like this is why NFL teams at times, they think it's the frickin' FBI.
Right.
I'm like, we're having some fun. It's quarantine life. Get over yourself. Like, come on. If we can't joke about this.
Yeah.
It's a simple joke. I'm not accusing anyone of committing a crime here.
Right.
It's going to a gentleman's club that I would say the vast majority of males in our country have probably attended one.
Correct.
In their day. And I'm sure a good amount of females have probably attended one as well. So, yeah, I don't, I basically what I'm getting at is I don't think the Colts are very loose with these personalities. I'm sure there are some hidden gems out there, but Hilton's relatively quiet. You'd probably throw Leonard back on the farm and have a nice segment on him. Would Nelson want to do it? I can't imagine.
Was it?
And it seems like to me, Hard Knocks, correct me if I'm wrong, but Hard Knocks really finds these, they don't care if you're number 84 on the roster.
No.
If you're funny and you got a good story, they're going to go with you.
Yeah, half of the players, you normally get the one star-studded guy, but most of them are people that you kind of follow along their journey and root for because it is the gunner on special teams or the guy trying to make the team. I think, and you might know, was it Blackman who sang PYT?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like his personality's pretty good, and that's like a rookie coming off an injury. Yeah.
But see, that's weird about it. It's like the Colts might not want him to be in the limelight because he is coming off this injury.
Yeah,
it's just
true.
Teams can be so protective, and I'm just like, dude, if we can't joke about this on the radio, then why are we even in the entertainment business?
Colts fan in Cincy wants to know, what would you personally consider a successful season? Winning the division, making the playoffs, AFC champs, etc.?
Well, before I answer one of those, I would say a successful season would be somehow Jacob Eason showing that he's your franchise quarterback. And I know that's not the answer that Colts fan in Cincy's looking for, but to me, that's the most important part of the season is, and any season until you answer that question. Until you can answer it, that to me is the most important part of this franchise. Who is your franchise quarterback? So that's very far-fetched, and the odds of that happening are, about as good as me playing Augusta National this year. So for the question at hand, I would say winning 10 or 11 games, winning the division, winning a game in the playoffs. Kansas City just didn't fall out of bed and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a progression to it. So, yeah, I think that would be considered successful in my eyes.
Joshua's placing the over-under at 5.5 for touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor this season.
I'm going to go over.
Okay.
Not by much, but yeah, I'll say 6.
And which second rounder has more touchdowns, him or Pittman?
Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say Taylor's got 6, Pittman's got 4.
Nathan wants to know which game you're most excited for this season.
Well, shit, I mean, September 13th, Nathan.
Number one, baby.
At Jacksonville. Yeah. Shit, it's 2020. I'm just excited for football. Hell, the Colts could be playing, Wabash. I'd be excited for it.
All right, Kev, this one's from Conroy. Peanut butter and jelly or fluffed nutter? You said unhealthy, and you said bread. Your move, sir.
Yeah, PB&J all day. PB&J, yeah. My diet consists of about 6 things, and PB&J is that's 1 or 2 of those, whatever you want to call it.
From Ben, the Colts are about to have the highest paid left guard and middle linebacker and maybe corner. How do they make this work, and who may be a cap casualty at or at least not re-signed because of it?
Yeah, Ben, it's a good question. I would say cap casualty. That means you outright cut somebody. I don't think that. I'm curious though, Chris. What do the T.Y. Hilton, Justin Houston contracts futures look like? Are they willing to take discounts?
Mm-hmm.
Because as Ben says, you are getting into a bit of a numbers thing. Having said that, you don't have the long-term quarterback. That's another of the luck kind of things that I was debating of, if Luck was still around, you'd be signing him to a mega deal here very soon again. Now, of course, a lot of people would be like, well, yeah, I'd rather have that. But still, I don't look at cap casualty, Ben. I look at, more of just what does Hilton or Houston's contract. Those are the 2 guys that kind of stand out to me.
We talked about this guy being an overall great athlete, but Matt wants to know, how has EJ Speed looked so far in camp?
Yeah, Matt, I gushed about him enough earlier. As far as where he fits in this defense, it goes back to really what I said earlier in the offseason. I don't see how he fits defensively this year. It's just you're worried about getting Bobby Okereke on the field. EJ Speed's another rung down the depth chart. So special teams and second teamer, I haven't seen any first-team reps from him.
This one's from Pistol Pete. What player do you think could do the best Ballard impersonation?
Pistol. Joey Molinaro can do the best Chris Ballard impression. I would say, boy, I need a little twang. Give me Mark Glowinski. I think he went to West Virginia.
Linemen usually are kind of like bullpen guys where they crack jokes.
I could see Costanzo being good, but, he's got Chicago ties. I don't know if he's got the twang, but, let's go with Glow.
Z-Palm, hey KB, have you seen the list of pending free agent running backs? Marlon Mack is like 12th on that list. If Marlon's value is sitting about $3 to $5 million a year with a little guaranteed, do you think the Colts could consider re-signing him?
Well, Z-Palm, I'll never forget, Chris Presley sending me a picture or whatever it was a few weeks back of these 2021 free agents at running back, and there are some extremely notable names on that list. I would disagree, though, 12th down the list. I guess, what does that mean, 12th on the list? You can make the argument right now that Marlon Mack's the 12th best running back in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So, 12th on what list? Contractually, yards in the league and the history? Because there might be some teams that have Marlon Mack number 1 on their list because he's so young. That's the most attractive quality to Marlon Mack in free agency. So, I don't think he's got to be probably the youngest free agent of any of those running backs. As far as the money, I'd say right around $5 million. I'd try and bring him back.
Tannenbaum disagrees with you. This is from Jenny.
God, it took me a while. I was thinking Taylor Tannenbaum.
I know.
Works for WTHR. I just talked to her the other day. She didn't say anything.
This is from Jenny. Does the media have to get COVID tests regularly now that you are allowed at practice? Do you guys request certain players you want to interview each week, or do you get what you get?
Yeah, Jenny. We do not get tested right now. If the Colts were indoors for practice, we would be getting tested. And so it sounds like once the weather turns, we will start to get tested to attend practice. On Tuesday, it rained, so we had to stand. I don't believe in an umbrella, so I just put on a rain jacket. because I'm tough. And they opened up the garage doors, which is this is what they usually do for indoor practices, anyways, when it's hot. So we watch from like that walkway, or walkway isn't the right word. Wherever the garage closes, that's where we stood and watched. So we socially distanced ourselves through the 6 openings of the garage doors. So yeah, that's where we are at. We request, and the Colts do a great job of making players available. Jacoby Brissett, first time talking to the media was last Friday. Malik Hooker was today. Obviously, there are reasons for that. There are some protections. Unfortunately, this is not open locker room.
Yeah.
And you get who you get. So the Colts, again, they do a great job, but some of them are certainly – we haven't talked to Marlon Mack at all this offseason. I mean, love to get his insight on Jonathan Taylor and, things like that. But that's just part of it. I expect player testing to continue through the season. I know right now it's through September 5th, but why not? I would assume that would be through the season.
Well, Kev, as you adjust your golf cap, got some golf questions for you. This is from Sean.
Ooh.
First off, what's your handicap?
Sean, it hovers around a 5. Been a little better at times this year. Breaking 80 is normally the goal. So, yeah, right around there.
What's your favorite course in Indiana to play?
Oh, gosh. Well, Victoria National down by Evansville is incredible. By far my favorite. I love Campin, Purdue's course. I love Forest Park in Noblesville, a 9-hole course. I used to slide down the 9th hole. Tippy Country Club, great track as well. Short, beautiful greens, terrific design on the back 9. Boy, I could go all day, as I'm sure you know, and just to make sure we don't turn any listeners off, I'll probably stop there.
Who's the coolest person you've ever played golf with?
Oh gosh. Who is the coolest person I've ever played golf with? I don't know, a lot of 1 degrees of separation, maybe. My high school teammate played in college with Brooks Koepka at Wolf Run in Zionsville, and I went and watched. I don't know. Unfortunately, I haven't played golf with many. Tyler Duncan, probably. He's on the PGA Tour. I don't know if that rings a bell. He got top 20 last week at the Wyndham. Yeah, I can't say I play. Eddie White, he talks a lot. Scott Dorsey had a high alpha. He's major. Yeah.
And I don't want to botch this, but he's recently played the Ocean Course at Kiowa.
Yeah, Kiowa, where the PGA Championship is next year.
So he wants to know, outside of Indiana, or is there a better golf course that you've played?
Yeah, I played Arcadia Bluffs last year in Michigan on 4th of July.
Very nice.
Awesome golf course. Fortunate to play Torrey Pines, where Tiger won the U.S. Open on the broken leg. Yeah, and Valhalla in Louisville, where Tiger also won a PGA Championship. So, yeah, I've been very, very fortunate. God, Sean, I could go for an hour.
Be on the lookout for Kevin's Corner Golf podcast.
Yeah, can't imagine that'll get a lot of listenership.
From Colts Talk, the Colts are in love with Bobby Okereke, saying he's a natural Mike linebacker. Do you think trading / not re-signing linebacker Anthony Walker is a possible opinion or option, I should say?
I'd be really stunned, probably beyond stunned, if they traded Walker. They like him. Not re-signing him, different story, but they really like him. And what are you gonna get? Again. Player trades for draft picks, it sounds a lot better than it is. So, no, I don't see that happening.
Matt and Lee kind of had the same question talking about Michael Pittman and the comparison to Allen Robinson. And do you think that is a perfect complement to the wide receiver corp with the vertical and over-the-middle big body?
Well, I do think his skill set and body type is the perfect complement. I've said Cortland Sutton is kind of the comp that I see. Watching Pittman in person, he's listed at 220, whatever, 5. He doesn't. It's a lean 225. He carries his weight very well. Long torso.
Yeah.
Definitely not built like his dad. I think the frame is so attractive, for a quarterback going back to what I said earlier of he doesn't create gobs of separation. Not many guys, 6'4", 220, do that. But quarterbacks are going to be more willing to give you a chance just because you do have this frame and catch radius that's bigger and longer and wider than, many other people. So, I kind of talked about my early thoughts on Pittman earlier in the pod.
Old Daner wants to know if you've noticed any offensive scheme changes with Rivers under center. Last year, Reich said he wouldn't change the playbook for Jacoby Brissett, but wondered if that's true for Phillip as well.
I think it's more of you're utilizing more progressions within plays. I think that's what it is. There are plays designed, word plays designed last year for some deeper balls. But again, it is the utilization of those, of the entire route tree or of all your weapons that are going out on a given play. I think Rivers gives you more there. There's been a couple read option stuff. Again, it's not Rivers keeping it. It is unbelievable timing and knowing where to go with the football because this guy crashed or that guy dropped in coverage or whatnot. So yeah, I think that's kind of the differences in the playbook and whatnot.
The spoken word wants to know how quote-unquote physical the practices you've attended have been, and did you sense any urgency from the staff and players to ramp up contact and preparation for week 1?
I don't think any more than other teams. I think everyone realizes that, time is ticking and, what is it? Is it 3 weeks from tomorrow the Texans are going to play?
Yep.
Yeah. 3 weeks from Sunday the Colts are going to play a football game. It's shit. It's coming, folks. We haven't seen live tackling stuff yet. I didn't expect that this early in camp at all. So yeah, I would say that Frank Reich gets it. He said something to the effect yesterday of, you can't play scared. This is football. You've got to practice it. So yes, I think it's been physical, but going all the way to we are taking guys to the ground. That's probably the one aspect we haven't seen yet, but we're 3 days into full pads. And Frank did mention that those Lucas Oil practices, did I mention that earlier?
Yes. Not earlier in this pod, but earlier before, yes.
They're gonna have a couple practices at Lucas Oil. Unfortunately, closed to fans, but Monday and Saturday. So our next pod will be probably Monday after that, or maybe Tuesday morning. That will be that'll be more of a game-like feel, is what Reich has said.
Creek wants to know, he knows that Andrew Luck is private. Does he still live here in Indy?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I think he was in the Apple store the other day. I don't know. I get people that'll randomly DM me and say that they've seen him. So, yeah, I think he's still kicking it.
Question from one of the...
I can't believe he retired.
I know. It's okay. We're in joy, remember? You're happy.
We are.
Beautiful.
We are.
This is from what I can only assume. I did the Roman numeral calculator 1924.
Cool.
Hasn't listened to the podcast in months because he's been teleworking, like most of us have been. A normal listener, but he wants to know, do you think Pittman is the real deal?
Gosh, it's early. I think he can be a really, really consistent wideout in this league. And, real deal to me is bona fide star, top 5-10 wideout in the league. I don't, I see a consistent 800 to 1,000-yard guy, which is pretty darn good. So, again, I think the biggest question is just creating enough space, or else, man, you've got to become the perfect catcher of footballs thrown at you, because it's going to be a smaller sort of window for quarterbacks to fit balls into.
Patrick's a longtime listener from down in Austin. He wants to know which college coach the Colts should hire to bring in and turn Jacob Eason into something special.
Is that a thing? I don't know. Is this like a Joe Brady reference, LSU, and going to the Panthers or whatnot? I don't. I mean, if Jacob Eason can't figure it out with Frank Reich, then good luck, I mean, in terms of quarterback coaches. So he certainly needs coaching. He'd be the first one to tell you that, and he needs development. But, yeah, I don't know of any college. I mean, it's not like he had an overwhelming amount of success at Georgia or Washington. So, yeah, Frank Reich, work your magic.
Obviously, a lot of us Colts people understand and know that Howard Mudd passed away last week.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers to his wife Shirley and their entire family.
Yeah, terrible to hear that. John wants to know, however, he'd love to hear one of your favorite stories about Howard Mudd.
You know, unfortunately, John, I wasn't around him much. His last year here was, I guess he was here a little bit last year, but, was more one of those Tony Dungy, Jim Caldwell staffs. I would say a couple things stand out to me about Mudd. I don't know if I've seen an assistant coach more beloved by players that aren't in his own room. Like, DBs love the DB coach, and linebackers love their position coach. But, like, Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney talking about Howard Mudd, that was Peyton Manning talking about Howard Mudd. Like, again, he was much more than just offensive line coach, and he's listed in your program based off where he is alphabetically, not because of his importance of the staff. And I would say John Tierlink, who unfortunately passed away as well, defensive line coach, I think last year, big guy. He would fall into that category as well. I would say the other thing that stands out about Mudd is just the Colts really didn't invest a whole lot in their offensive line during those years and had unbelievable success. Yeah. I mean, if you think about that Super Bowl line, I believe the starting unit was, Tariq Glenn, first rounder. But Ryan Lilja, he might have been undrafted. Jeff Saturday certainly was undrafted. Jake Scott, I want to say day 3 pick, like round 5 out of Idaho /maybe. Ryan Deem at right tackle, that's round 4 out of Northern Illinois. I mean, we're not talking household colleges / I think about the Colts line right now. I mean, you got first-round pick in Costanzo, top 25 or 21, whatever it was. Nelson 6 overall, Kelly's 18 overall, Glowinski's a 4th-rounder, and then Braden Smith in the second round, early in the second round, 37 overall or something. So it's just that helps a football team so much when you have a guy that can mold one of the best units in the NFL, and you don't have to invest these serious resources into it. So, and there was turnover there. I mean, Charlie Johnson became a starting tackle, and, I guess he had a revolving door a little bit at tackle once Glenn kind of surprisingly retired or hung it up a little bit early. So, yeah, awful to see. And, Howard Mudd is the reason Chris Strasser is the assistant coach is the offensive line coach here. I think I've told the story before. You had Quentin Nelson pleading to Chris Ballard to hire his college offensive line coach, ironically enough. And, Frank Reich talks to Howard Mudd one day for a reference with Chris Strasser, and he's like, I got to hire you, and obviously he didn't cuss because Frank doesn't cuss. But, yeah, I mean, he's impacted a whole lot of people in this game.
Yes.
And, I mean, the common phrase you hear, if there's ever an assistant coach Hall of Fame, Howard Mudd is a first balloter.
Absolutely. And Grieve wants to know, would you gamble on Clowney? It feels like having Justin Houston, Buckner, Clowney, and Toure would be a great third down unit. Plus, he is still young while Houston is getting up there in age.
Yeah, I would probably gamble, but they're not going to gamble. We get this question every week. So $22 million, sure, why not? Gamble.
All right, 5 more here. First with Jordan. With a good amount of college football being canceled, do you believe the next draft will be filled with late round laden talent? Had Joe Burrow not had the year he did, he may have been undrafted at all. Also, how much more important will next year's scouting combine be?
I mean, it could be massive.
Yeah.
Just massive. What's the Senior Bowl look like? Sounds like Jacksonville might be trading Yannick Ngakoue. That'd be good for the Colts. I think there's just more guesswork. Guys are going to fall through the cracks. Joe Burrow said himself, I wouldn't have been He would have been maybe a day 3 draft pick.
Mhm.
Maybe. Now he's a 20-something million guy. I
Yep.
mean, like, huge. God, we need college football. I didn't like seeing Notre Dame's numbers of campus. Oh, gosh. I hope. I don't know, man.
The South's going to have it, man. They're going to try their hardest.
I will take it. I will be – sign me. If you could guarantee me the SEC is going to play this year, I'd probably just sign on somewhere on the line and say, all right.
Yep.
I'm whatever.
Not only play it, they're talking like fans in the stands.
No, yeah. God bless the SEC.
I know.
I love it.
Rick wants to know, what is the expecting starting defensive line to look like? Buckner next to Houston. Is Trey definitely a day 1 starter?
No, he's not. Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner inside, and then I would say Danico Autry or Al-Qadim Muhammad opposite Justin Houston. Turay, third down, I've said that, but he's also got to get on the field kind of quick. I mean, he doesn't look like a guy that's coming back to practice tomorrow to me. And this is just me just generally watching him walk on a practice field. Like, it still seems like it's a couple days away. Well, you would think after being out for nearly a year, you'd want multiple weeks of practice before you played him in a game. So, yeah, I don't know. That one's a little bit murkier to me.
This one's from Noah. When week 1 comes around, are you and other media going to go to Jacksonville, or do you have to stay here?
Well, I don't know if anyone's traveling, to be honest with you. Maybe some will, but, it's all Zoom. Everything is Zoom. So, besides watching it, shout out to Jenna Fisher working for Zoom. Just a terrific company that thing has turned into.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, besides watching it from the press box, that's it. I mean, that's the appeal. It's not like you're getting inside access or anything.
Second to last question this week from John. Let's say Rivers, Taylor, Buckner, and Rhodes all come out and play between a Pro Bowl and second-team All-Pro level, in addition to Nelson and Leonard continuing to play at that first-team All-Pro level. What's our record, and what's our playoff seeding, and what are our Super Bowl odds?
I mean, say those names again.
Rivers, Taylor, Buckner, and Rhodes.
He's saying at a Pro Bowl to second-team All-Pro level?
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, the Colts might go undefeated. I mean, seriously. I mean, John's saying there, okay, let me see if I got this right. Rivers, borderline second-team All-Pro.
Mm-hmm.
That means he's the third best quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
He's not a first-team All-Pro. He's not a second-team, but he's close. So that means you have the third best quarterback in the league. Jonathan Taylor, that's the third best running back in the league. You've got the third best cornerback in the league in Xavier Rhodes and Buckner, and then you've got your normal All-Pros in Nelson. I mean, seriously. If you get that play from those positions, quarterback and cornerback, 14-2, I mean, number 1 seed and the favorite to win it all. I mean, that's absurd amount of, that's 2 definite All-Pros and 4 borderline.
That's got to be what, Kansas City last year? How close were they to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing. Yeah, I don't. Chris Jones and Hill and Kelsey and Mahomes, sure, and they were definitely the favorite. It seemed like so. Yeah, John, that's 13-3, 14-2, and yeah, it comes through Lucas Oil if there's not a postseason bubble.
Last question this week's from Jason. What are the testing/quarantine procedures for street free agents during the season? Definitely presents challenges to late in week injuries and positive tests.
Yeah, you can bring guys in now. A couple weeks ago, there used to be you had to have the intent to sign them. I think you can bring them in now and test them and then work them out and have a little bit more of a normal free agency visit process. So I don't think it's any sort of they've got to clear testing somewhere else and
right
before that, then all of a sudden, you can sign them and whatnot.
Well, you've been out of camp. You've seen the progression there. Let our listeners know who want to know. How's the progression with Rosie?
She's good. I do have to mention this. I've had some weird dreams lately. I should have told Ben Polizzi about I tweeted at him about my dream of him hitting in the World Series and hitting a bomb and Joey Molinaro and I pouring beer on him. Last night I had a dream that somehow you and I and somebody else were at a club and I was in charge of Rosie, My wife was out of town, and I just left her and brought the baby monitor to the club.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I can't tell you last time I've been to a club.
Right.
Period. And let alone talk about great technology that the baby monitor could extend to the club. And then, I mean, we were gone for like 5 hours. I mean, just could I have been a more horrific dad?
Dad of the year.
I mean, literally.
That's hilarious.
She's great. She's great. Sleeping well, and she's awesome. So turned 2 months last week.
Time's flying, man.
Rosie Bowe, yeah, I know. My wife will go back to work here in a couple weeks, so we'll send her to daycare, and that'll probably really get us more emotional and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
That's part of it. All right, man. He's Chris Presley. I'm Kevin Bowen. Everybody have a great week, great weekend. Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning. Again, 1075thefan.com. Tons of written content. Head over there, everybody. Be safe. See ya.